as you know yourself, Gary, your business can run away with you. And I wasn't running it well. There were several times I considered taking my own life, and I think if I hadn't have changed career, I probably would have done it. You know, I wasn't asking for help. I wasn't really telling anybody the truth. If I turned round and tried to say, I'm not feeling well today, people would kind of, oh, you can't be ill, because what are we going to do?
Can you give me one daily non-negotiable for your well-being? On today's episode of Leaders in Disguise, I'm joined by somebody who knows what it means to rebuild from the inside out. Keira Smith's journey has taken her from being a fitness instructor, battling depression, to becoming a hypnotherapist, helping others clear trauma without needing to relive it. She'd lived through unimaginable pressure, from traumatic childhood to brain surgery that changed how she sees the world, literally. But what she's doing now might just revive and rewire how you think about healing. Let's get into it. Keira, thank you so much for coming to Leaders in Disguise, the studio that is, I'm going to say world famous now, because we do get them across the world. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm really good. It's so good to be here with you, Gary. Thank you so much.
I feel like we connected, and people that are regular listeners to the show, it's been a long day. They know me well by now, and well, they know that we also have a bit of a catch up, and we call and we do a bit of a research call.
Yes.
But we actually spoke because we connected online, and initially we started talking about the podcast, and I said, I don't know, but there's lots of other things going on. And then I felt like we just had like the most amazing, like I'd known you all my life.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You were just one of those people that straight away I just warmed to you. I genuinely just really liked you. And
I didn't pay you to say that. So
No, you didn't.
Yeah,
No, you didn't.
I'll give you the money for later for that one.
We just had a really nice chat, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah.
We were talking about camper vans and going out. And everyone I'd come across, I tried to persuade them to buy a new camper van. Yeah. Have you bought one yet?
I haven't, but it is on the list. It is on the shopping list.
I know your other half, while you're here recording this in the studio, is looking around the park. So I think he likes going out to parks.
He does. And I told him, you see, about how you use yours to take your granddad and your mum out, and you know, it's not just for holidays, it can be for nice days out.
Absolutely.
And that was a kind of, oh yeah, we could do that as well. So that's another thing you can use it for.
Part of our well-being journey. I feel like I need to put it through as a tax expense at some point.
Yeah.
So this is the start of that journey by mentioning it on here. My accountant will be happy with that. I've just got to look from behind the camera then. Thanks for that. For those people that watch, I just looked behind the camera. But certainly from the point of view of actually, you know, it's part of our well-being, going out there and just enjoying.
Oh my God,
outside.
yeah. It's an absolute mainstay in mine and my husband's life, is getting out. Even if it's just for a 10-minute walk in the evening, even if that's all we've got time for, but just getting out into the countryside, away from stuff, spending time in nature, walking. Walking is like one of my absolute mainstay things. It's my happy button. It's what I always go to if I'm not feeling great. Yeah.
Well, you're welcome in Derbyshire anytime.
Oh my God, one of my favourites, Derbyshire as well. Yeah.
Plenty of rolling fields and looking around.
I love it.
Absolutely.
Love it. Yeah.
So now we've done enough for the tourist board of Derbyshire.
We have.
I'd like to start and get into the amazing work that you do, because one of the things that jumped out to me particularly was your story, which really grabbed me after our chats about many things. The struggles and challenges that you've gone through.
Yeah.
I'm looking at my notes here. So it's where you were working as a fitness instructor.
Yeah.
Living with depression, trauma. Tell us a bit about that. What was it like living on a day-to-day basis with that?
Yeah. So initially, when I became a personal trainer, fitness instructor, yoga teacher, it was because I had run a half marathon with a friend of mine, and she'd helped me train, and I thought, if I can do this for other people, that would be amazing, that would be a good career. So initially it did start off as something that was helping me,
and great for the mind,
but as you know yourself, Gary, when you kind of, your business can run away with you. And I wasn't running it well. I wasn't charging people enough. I didn't have enough boundaries put in. And because all of that was adding to my stress bucket, the already full stress bucket that was full of pretty serious stuff was getting more and more full. And it basically, I was at the point where every Christmas I would have a nervous breakdown. And I would just, it would be like this thing that I just knew was going to happen, where I would just absolutely collapse into bits. But then somehow I would still be like, oh, but I'll still open for 2 days over Christmas. You know, there'll be some people that still want to come. And somehow, you know, my cortisol levels in my body must have just been so ridiculously high constantly, the adrenaline racing through my system, because I'd got myself into this horrible cycle of over-exercising as well. And then you have the pressure of, because the fitness industry can be a really toxic place. There are some really amazing people in there, but it can be really toxic and full of people who lie and shame people. So you're under this kind of extreme pressure where I might have seen 10 personal training clients that day and taught a yoga class, but then I'm like, oh, but I haven't done my own workout. Need to do my own workout because, you know, need to keep fit. Well, you've been on your feet all day. You've taught a yoga class, and I look back now and I just cringe.
Do you think there's that pressure? And I certainly found it running a people consultancy, that in the industries that we're in, we almost need to become, well, we are the experts.
Yes.
So even now, you're having this conversation, I think I need to be looking after my well-being more than anybody else.
Yes.
And I can tell you now, only Sunday I was having a bit of an anxiety attack, and that is so unusual.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen to me all the time, but I thought, what's going on?
Yes.
Going out to go and see some friends, what's going on?
Yeah.
Or January, I really struggled in January.
Yes.
And I had to have a conversation. So there's that pressure in fitness to visually look good, you know, whatever good is, you know, very subjective, but mentally be good as well.
You've got to be everything. And you've got all these people looking to you. And, you know, I wasn't asking for help. I wasn't really telling anybody the truth. I wasn't asking for help. I was using unhelpful coping mechanisms, and I was allowing people to put more and more pressure on me and raising my own bar higher and higher and higher. And it's just ridiculous, you know, and yes, the industry puts pressure on you, but ultimately I was putting that pressure on myself, and I was allowing people to treat me as their problem solver. People were coming to me for anything and everything. And the trouble is that because I had set that bar very high, if I turned round and tried to say, I'm not feeling well today, people would kind of, oh, you can't be ill because what are we going to do? Because I had set that up myself. You know, that's the role I'd kind of learnt to play in my family, and then I'd carried on. So I was kind of trying to heal myself by giving other people what I needed rather than actually asking for any of it for myself.
It's interesting. Yesterday I was running a workshop with a great bunch of people. I've got to say, they did so well.
Yeah.
I've run one group and this is the second group, and I've gone, wow, they blew me away yesterday.
Yeah.
And there was one moment that somebody, and she's a grandmother now, and I think she's got 3 grandchildren, two
nice.
children, and she's doing amazing in her work.
Yes.
And she said to me, Gary, it's not built in me to be selfish. It's not built inside of my brain.
Yeah.
She said, I used to be a nurse.
Yes.
And I kept going and going and going. And she said, what I felt like and how I was never mattered. And it really got me there. It really hurt me.
It really
I thought,
impacted.
Wow, like to say that you don't matter, you know, to use those words in a room of 15 people. She said, yeah, I didn't matter. It was not about me. It was about everybody else.
Yeah.
But we lose sight of that, don't we?
We absolutely can. And then that sort of trains the people around us to behave more selfishly. And we're kind of saying, yeah, it's okay. You can put anything you want on me, and it will all be fine. You know, I'll just shove my needs to the back. And if you are a natural carer, natural empath, you do sometimes have to learn that. to go, no, actually, that's a step too far. Now, I wouldn't do 80% of the things I used to do for other people. Now, I wouldn't. I'd do it for select people, but I would never put myself out there the way I used to.
If you look back, were there any signs, any moments that stood out for you where you said, enough is enough?
Probably just before lockdown, actually. And it's funny how the universe works, isn't it? Because just before lockdown, I remember actually saying to my husband, I can't cope anymore. I can't keep doing this. I have to make a change. And I feel like I need like 6 months off work, but I can't afford to take it. You know, I'd painted myself into a corner with money, with, you know, all of those kind of things. And literally within weeks, lockdown hit. And that was, so I put my business online. So I was still able to work, but people weren't in the house. And I was able to take proper breaks between sessions. And so everything started to just ease off a little bit. So I'd say, yeah, that moment, it was probably the February, literally the month before lockdown came, when I just thought, there were several times I considered taking my own life. And I think if I hadn't have changed career, I'm not lying, I probably would have done it.
Goodness,
that's how bad it had got. Yeah. So I wouldn't, you know, I don't want to, I'm not saying that so people feel sorry for me or anything, but, you know, and I think, you know, sometimes people can be judgmental about people who take their own lives. Well, go there, go to that place they're in, and then talk to me about whether you think that's a selfish act or not. Because at that moment, you genuinely believe the world would be a better place without you. Because you see all these people having to put up with you struggling, and you really don't want to put them through that.
Thank you for opening up and telling us that. Can you tell me how you started on that healing journey then? Because that's quite a dark place and a difficult place to come from.
Yeah, it was YouTube, actually. I think all these signs and gifts can come in all sorts of different packages, can't they? And I always used YouTube a lot. I got loads of workouts off there. You know, I did all my exercise stuff off there and research and things like that. And all these videos kept popping up for Law of Attraction. Abraham Hicks. And I thought, who the hell's Abraham Hicks? What is this? Watched it and sort of started to get my head around this whole, you change your thoughts and your life changes and you start attracting different things towards you. And like I'm sure a lot of people do, when they first start to engage with that, I was like, no, I can't, it's not my fault that all these things are happening, you know. But then I started to think, oh, I can see how this is working, actually. And I could genuinely see the changes in my life. I think what starts to happen then, and talking to a lot of other people who've been on a similar journey, they agreed, you start to change from within. Your kind of vibration, your levels all start to change. And at that point, you really start to notice the people that are in your life that through no fault of their own just shouldn't be there anymore. Yeah. You know, sometimes it is through fault of their own, but sometimes it's just that you've kind of just done what you needed to do with that person. And so it was from watching YouTube, then that all started to happen. And I'd say from that moment forward, that was when I started, I don't know where hypnotherapy popped into my head from, but it did. And then I found the course that I went on, and that's when the real dismantling of my entire life began.
You know, as you walked in today, we were talking about different places where we come from the, in the face of adversity. And I said as speakers, we particularly I find in the rooms that I've been in are people that have been through some adversity or trauma or something going on in their life.
Yes.
And so many people turn that into some good.
Yeah.
And you have done, and we'll perhaps held it for a little moment, but
absolutely
you've carried on, and you've gone and turned that hypnotherapy into some good, which is great. I guess, like you say, laws of attractiveness, it's where our lives lead us and what we do, which is just really, really interesting and great that you are doing it. For so many leaders and high performers, that idea of asking for help, and I'm going to use a strong word now, but I've got used to it, conditioned it in my own mind, but it can still be quite jarring for some, is that we might feel like that's failure to go out and ask for help, to say, actually, all the things I've been doing, and certainly in the world that you were in, they're not working, and I need some professional support. Did you go and get that professional support? Was it hard to admit that you needed it?
Do you know, Gary, I've been to several different people for support, and I wish I could collect all the money I've ever spent on all of those other ways of support, because there are some amazing people out there to support you, and there are some crackpots who will prey on your vulnerability and make you feel like if you don't carry on coming to see me, you'll never sort your life out and you'll never get better. I think I also grew up in a family where it's like, well, you should be able to do it yourself. And I think that mentality is something I've only really in the last year been able to let go of. And I think I didn't really know. I think I'd got to the point where I was like, I don't really know what kind of help I need. And I feel like I'm kind of running around searching for it, but I can't really find the right thing. And it can be really scary, because you do worry that, you know, if I take time off, if I tell people that I'm mentally unwell, you know, will that detract people from coming to me? But then there's also the kind of, if I don't have this slight edge of anxiety, will I work as hard? Will I have what's attracting people to come and work with me? Will I have enough drive? You know, so it's really ridiculous. You're just in this ridiculous place. Yeah, absolutely. And now, of course, I understand about the brain. I understand where all that's coming from and how I got to where I got to. But at the time, and then people are just leaning on you. You know what it's like, you know. Just leaning and leaning and leaning.
Which is great. And I think it's what I heard there, by the way, when you said it, was that shame that people use with the word independence, that you say it's a recent thing that you've discovered, is that we get shamed into independence. Like, well, just go and do it. I'm okay. I do it on my own. I go and do this.
Yes.
But independence is something to empower us, not to use against us. Would you agree?
I completely agree. And I was watching the Graham Norton show a few months ago, and Arnold Schwarzenegger was on there. And Jay Blades was on there. And Jay Blades was telling a story about when he was absolutely at rock bottom. His marriage had failed. He was living in his car in a car park. And a guy from his church who was in the audience at Graham Norton took him into his family, got him on his feet. And obviously now Jay has a great career making TV programmes. And Arnold Schwarzenegger said, I'm really glad you've told that story. He said, because a man said to me when I was younger, nobody is a self-made man. Everybody needs help in one shape or form. That could be in your personal life. It could be in your work life. We don't have to know how to do everything ourselves. That's why there are other people that we can ask to help us along. And I thought that was a really positive thing that you don't often hear people saying.
Especially somebody that has made it, that is so admired, and in so many ways. I mean, he's gone on to do politician, and he's done so much.
He's done tons. He's lovely guy, and he's got all sorts of funny stories, and all his animals he talks about. And but he is very sort of typically macho to look at. But I thought that was really powerful. It lets people off the hook. You know, it's okay to ask for help, whether that's help with your social media or help with your mental health, you know, in whatever way you need it.
And I guess it's also stepping away from that mentality of going, I don't have to be strong. And there's an argument there to say, actually, by showing vulnerability and weakness, you are being strong.
100%.
But you don't have to appear in this conventional sense of strong all the time.
That is a massive thing I've been talking about a lot recently, and has come up on other podcasts, is creative leadership. That actually your feminine energy, whether you're man or woman, that's a really strong leadership tool. And it's certainly what I'm leading with now, my vulnerability and talking about what I've been through and what I sort of still am coping with. It lets my clients off the hook. It enables them to trust me. It enables them to feel she's not sitting on an ivory tower. She's walked the walk.
Yeah.
And she's not going to judge me for needing help. And you know, that's the way I lead now.
Which brings us in nicely into what work you are doing now. It's almost like you can see my notes in front of me on here, which is beautifully. So you've taken that healing and turned it into something quite powerful. Can you tell us, for someone that's never heard of solution-based hypnotherapy? I was looking for my notes here. It's just terminology described. I'm just going to say it again.
I know it sounds a lot more. It's solution-focused hypnotherapy. It's quite a mouthful.
So different? Why not hypnotherapy?
Yeah, so there are loads and loads of different types of hypnotherapy, which is something I didn't realise before I became a hypnotherapist. And solution-focused hypnotherapy is a blend of solution-focused brief therapy, which is a type of talk therapy, and hypnotherapy, which is what we traditionally think of, which is the deep relaxation.
The Paul McKenna on the stage.
The Paul McKenna, that sort of thing. Yeah, absolutely. And so the talk part of what we do, we don't take clients back to talk about the past. We now know through modern neuroscience, which is what solution-focused hypnotherapy is based on, that if we keep talking about the problem, our body keeps reacting to it as if it's happening, and it keeps going back in the stress bucket, and it needs then to be reprocessed. So just like if we were to sit here now, Gary, and talk about something awful that had happened, your body would start to produce adrenaline and cortisol, and your palms might start to sweat, or you might just shut down completely and think, I'm not talking to you, and just kind of go into that depressive state. And that's what we want to avoid with solution-focused hypnotherapy, which is why it's a career that has saved me as well as helping my clients, because we are taking them forward. And, you know, a lot of them are kind of sitting there when I'm doing the initial consultation thinking, how can you solve a problem without talking about it? Which I would have said the same thing until I did this, until I now know that it's through our REM sleep that we process all of those memories. We don't need to talk about them in order to process them.
That filing cabinet to put them away in
Absolutely.
Brain. I've heard of one of the therapies I was looking at a long time ago. Is it EMR?
EMDR. So that's with the eye movement.
Yeah, and that's about putting them away in those memories.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the thing I really like about what I do and the type of hypnotherapy I do is that it's very straightforward. It does require engagement from the client. They have to do 2 exercises in between the sessions, but it is simple and it's straightforward in what it's asking from the client, and it works, and it's short term. And I think for me, that was another thing. I didn't want to do a job where I was seeing the same people for years and years and years, because I'd done that. Which
is madness in a way, because from a commercial point of view, you want regular income,
absolutely,
don't you?
Absolutely.
Shows more ethically the way that you're doing things, perhaps. Is
Do you know, one of my lecturers from my course, he actually goes as far as to say he actually believes it is unethical to get somebody to talk over and over and over again about something which has been so deeply distressing. And I can honestly say the day I stopped talking about the past was the day my life started to change, because your brain is moving out of that primitive part of the brain, the survival part, into the intellectual, helpful part where you can problem solve, you can stand back and be rational, and you can start to let go of those unhelpful coping mechanisms, which, as you know, Gary, we can all get into. You know, when we're really busy and we're under pressure, that's where we go.
It's interesting. I'm sitting here now and I'm thinking, do I ask you this question or not? So as a speaker, and I'm thinking of the 25, 30, 40, 50 speakers that I sit in a room with.
Yeah.
We're reliving that trauma in front of a an audience of 500,000 people.
Kind of, but you guys might have got to the point where you've got emotional distance from that now.
I like that word, emotional distance.
Emotional distance. So a really good example of that is a lady who came to me who had a terrible car crash when she was 18, never driven again. And she'd got to the point where she'd got 3 kids. She wanted to get back on the road. She came to me after a few sessions. She was back out driving, and she actually drove past a car crash. Okay. Now, nobody obviously wants to look at car crashes, but she saw it and she was able to drive past it and carry on. And that's at that point where enough has been processed out the stress bucket that you can look back at it knowing that it's no longer happening. It's not happening to you. And so you can talk about it, and you can, share it and be honest about it.
I've got a couple of quick fire questions, if I may.
Yeah, of course. Go for it.
Nothing too hard.
Oh, don't
and
worry.
if we can keep them brief,
I will.
Well, I'll
my
probably
best.
end up adding more.
Yeah.
Can you give me one daily non-negotiable for your well-being with all of your few years of learning at the grand age of 21? I didn't realise when I said all those years. 40.
Yeah, only a couple of years behind you, Gary. Walking.
Walking, yes, of course.
Yeah, that would be it. Walking, I'd have to say 50% walking, 50% social contact. That's another very
Expand
important
on the social
one.
Contact. Is that friends?
Yeah,
family?
Friends, networking, one-to-ones, anything really. But as you know, if you've got a whole day, and I might have a day when I don't have any clients, it's really important that I either go out for a coffee with a friend, or do some networking, or have a one-to-one with somebody, something like that. It's very important.
Reflect on that, because I don't do that, and I do have my best days when I do a mentoring session with a mentee that I'm working with. I mean, if that's 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, it sets me up for the day.
It does, because you get lots of serotonin, you might get some oxytocin, you get some dopamine, and then your brain's loving all of that. It's kind of fireworks going off.
I love the neuroscience
in your
of
brain.
This quick fire question. Next question then. So what's something that you've stopped doing that's made your life better?
Yeah, that's a really good one, Gary. I have stopped letting other people completely dictate things. So if somebody is trying to arrange a meeting with me, or a client is trying to book in, and they are asking me when I'm free, I think for a minute, when do I want to do this appointment? My preference is 10:30 a.m.
I love that boundary.
And that's stuck. That's absolutely stuck there. And that it just cuts out resentment. I think it's Brené Brown who says, choose discomfort over resentment. And it's that little moment of just, saying your needs or wants, or over a possibly months, years of resentment, isn't it?
My last question for you.
Yes.
So, I get this phrase right. So, what's a hill to die on when it comes to supporting other leaders? Would you say? What? If you hear that phrase, like if I'm a hill to die on, what one thing should people be doing to support leaders from your professional point of view?
I think the big thing is like what you're doing, Gary, opening up a dialogue. That because people feel like they have to constantly pretend they've got everything together. And I think it's the biggest thing I notice in what I do as a hypnotherapist is another guy who I was speaking to on a podcast called it a permission slip. We've got to keep giving people these permission slips. And that there's an awful lot of buzzwords around mental health, aren't there? An awful lot of crap, let's be honest. Yeah. And I think it's, like you trying to reclaim the word selfish. We've got ourselves into this really weird place where, there's all this differing advice going out of do this, but don't do this, and be yourself, but don't be yourself too much. And, it's just, I think that constant permission and reminder of you can say what you need, and then you can choose when you want to give to others. And I think we've just got to keep that dialogue going, and so that it doesn't turn into toxic positivity of keep your chin up, everything's fine. And because when I say I'm a solution focused hypnotherapist, I think some people think that it's all, sorry I keep hitting the microphone, think it's all that kind of thing, but it's not. Solution focused just means getting your brain into a more confident, resilient place, not pretending everything's 100% okay all the time. A business coach that I've met through networking told a story that one of her clients said, when I'm in your sessions, it's the only place where I don't have to pretend I've got all my shit together.
Wow.
And I think that's the big thing for me now, is continuing to give people space to not be sorted all the time.
Brilliant. Perfect. We've pretty much run out of time.
It's been great.
I think we've done well to get through what we've gone through. If somebody's been listening to this, to the conversation that we've had, and has hit that wall, and doesn't really know where to go, what would you want them to be hearing right now, having been there in that moment?
I would want you to know that there is a gentler, kinder, science-based way to get yourself back on track, whether that's feeling less anxious, coming out of depression, taking steps towards a goal that you're dying to achieve, but you just can't find your way into it. You could be trying to change from the wrong part of your brain, and there is a way to get back into the right part of your brain, and it won't cost you a fortune, and it won't take you forever, and it is an absolute game changer, life changer. Find a solution-focused hypnotherapist and start working with them.
Beautifully done. They're doing me out of a job. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you've been moved by Keira's story about if it's made you feel a little bit less alone in the world, then please share what you've heard today. Share it with the world. Recommend people. If you're not subscribing, click subscribe already. Drop us some comments of what you might be thinking right now to hello@leadersindisguise.com. Every time we have a conversation like you've just said, we break the stigma, not only with our mental health, but our overall well-being. And sharing these stories really makes a big difference. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Gary, and thank you for everything that you are doing, because it is making a big difference. And you are on a global soul mission, and you're doing an amazing job.
Thank you. And with people like you by my side, I can definitely achieve it.
It is an honour.
No, thank you so much for your kind words, and genuinely thank you for coming today. It's been long overdue.
Oh, it's been great. Thank you so much, Gary.
Thank you. If people need to find you, by the way,
head to my website, which is www.positivechangehypnotherapy.co.uk, and there's a free guide you can download on there. So there's some immediate free resources you can start to use.
And look for Keira Smith.
Look for Keira Smith,
Brilliant. Thank you. There we go.
You.
Join us next time.